Get out of my kitchen, Bella. You're ruining dinner again. Gloria's shrill voice pierced through the clattering of pots and pans. I stepped back, clutching the wooden spoon like a lifeline, my heart pounding in my chest. The scent of burnt garlic filled the air, mingling with the aroma of the roasting chicken. I'm sorry, Gloria. I was just trying to help. I stammered, my voice barely above a whisper. Help? You call this helping? Gloria's eyes narrowed as she pointed to the charred garlic. You can't even manage something as simple as this. No wonder Ryan is always so stressed. Ryan, my husband, chose that moment to walk into the kitchen, his phone glued to his ear. He glanced at the scene, his eyes cold and indifferent. Bella, can you not cause any more problems today? I have a conference call in an hour. I bit back the retort that was on the tip of my tongue. Instead, I nodded and retreated to the living room, the weight of their disdain pressing heavily on my shoulders. The ornate clock on the mantel ticked loudly, each second a reminder of my growing despair. As I sank into the plush armchair, my phone buzzed in my pocket. It was a message from my mother, Lisa. Thinking of you, sweetheart. Call me when you can. I glanced towards the kitchen where Gloria was still muttering under her breath, and Ryan was pacing, his conversation now in full swing. I slipped out the back door, the crisp Massachusetts air a welcome relief. Dialing my mother's number, I pressed the phone to my ear. Hi, Mom, I said, my voice trembling. Bella, honey, what's wrong? Lisa's warm voice was like a balm to my frayed nerves. It's just everything. I sighed, my eyes welling up with tears. Gloria, Ryan. They make me feel so small, so insignificant. Oh, Bella, Lisa said softly. You deserve so much better than this. Your father always believed in you, and so do I. The mention of my father brought a fresh wave of grief. He had passed away suddenly just a month ago, leaving a void that seemed impossible to fill. I miss him so much, Mom, I whispered. I know, sweetheart. I miss him too. But there's something you need to know, Lisa said, her tone shifting. Your father left you something in his will. It's a significant inheritance. I blinked, the words not quite registering. An inheritance? Yes, Bella. $2 million, Lisa revealed. Your father wanted you to have a chance at a better life. The news hit me like a bolt of lightning. $2 million. A chance to escape, to start over. Oh, Mom, I breathed, a glimmer of hope flickering in my chest. Take this opportunity, Bella, Lisa urged. You don't have to stay there and endure their cruelty. I nodded, though she couldn't see me. Thank you, Mom. I need to think about this. Of course, sweetheart. Just remember, I'm here for you always, Lisa said gently. As I hung up, I felt a strange mix of emotions. Relief, hope, and a burgeoning sense of determination. I wouldn't let Ryan and his family continue to belittle me. I had a way out, and I was going to take it. Stepping back inside, I found Ryan in the living room, his call finished. He looked up, his expression unreadable. Where were you? Just outside, I replied, my voice steadier than before. I needed some air. He shrugged, already dismissing me from his thoughts. Fine. Just don't make a habit of it. I clenched my fists, the resolve hardening within me. This was just the beginning. I had a plan now, a way to reclaim my life. And I wasn't going to let anyone stand in my way. As I headed upstairs, Gloria's voice echoed from the kitchen, still complaining about the burnt garlic. But for the first time in a long while, I didn't care. My future was no longer tied to their whims. I was ready to take control, to fight for my happiness. And nothing, not even Gloria's relentless criticism or Ryan's indifference, was going to stop me. The next morning, the tension in the house was palpable. I could feel Gloria's eyes boring into my back as I prepared breakfast. Ryan sat at the head of the table, absorbed in his laptop, barely acknowledging my presence. Edward, as usual, buried himself behind the morning paper. Did you burn the toast again, Bella? Gloria's voice dripped with disdain. I clenched my jaw, forcing myself to remain calm. No, Gloria. It's perfectly fine. Well, it smells burnt, she snapped, her eyes narrowing. Ryan glanced up briefly, his expression indifferent. Bella, can you please try to be more careful? We don't need any more issues this morning. I swallowed hard, fighting back the tears. Of course, Ryan. As I placed the toast on the table, my phone buzzed in my pocket. It was a message from my mother. Call me when you can. It's important. I took a deep breath, excusing myself from the kitchen. Once outside, I dialed my mother's number, my hands trembling slightly. Mom, what's wrong? I asked, my voice barely steady. Bella, I just received a call from the lawyer handling your father's estate. There's a complication with the inheritance, Lisa said, her tone urgent. My heart sank. What kind of complication? It seems there's a clause in the will that requires you to be living independently to receive the full amount. If you're still living with Ryan and his family, you might not get anything, she explained. I felt a wave of panic wash over me. But I can't just leave, Mom. I have nowhere to go. You have me, Bella. You can come home, Lisa said firmly. But you need to act quickly. The lawyer said you have a limited time to prove your independence. I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. Okay, Mom. I'll figure something out. As I hung up, the weight of my situation pressed heavily on my shoulders. I needed to leave, and soon. But how could I do that without causing a scene? Returning to the kitchen, I found Gloria and Ryan in a heated discussion. I don't care what the lawyer says, Ryan. Bella needs to give us that money. We deserve it, Gloria was saying, her voice rising. Ryan's expression was hard. I'll talk to her, Mother. But you need to calm down. I took a deep breath, stepping into the room. Ryan, we need to talk. He looked up, his eyes narrowing. What is it now, Bella? I glanced at Gloria, who was glaring at me. In private, I added, my voice firm. Ryan sighed, getting up from the table. Fine. Let's go to the study. Once inside the study, I closed the door behind us. Ryan, there's something you need to know. My father's will has a clause that requires me to be living independently to receive the inheritance. He frowned, crossing his arms. What are you saying, Bella? I'm saying that if I stay here, we might not get anything, I explained, my voice trembling slightly. I need to leave, at least temporarily, to prove my independence. Ryan's eyes narrowed. And where exactly do you plan to go? I'll stay with my mother, I replied, meeting his gaze. It's the only way. He was silent for a moment, his expression unreadable. Fine, but don't expect me to wait around for you. If you leave, you might as well not come back. His words hit me like a punch to the gut. Ryan, please. This is for us. For our future. He shook his head, a cold smile playing on his lips. No, Bella. This is for you. And if you leave, don't expect anything from me. I felt a surge of anger and determination. Fine. I'll go. But don't think for a second that this is over. As I turned to leave, Ryan's voice stopped me. And Bella, don't forget to tell my mother about your little plan. She deserves to know. I nodded, my heart pounding in my chest. I will. As I walked back to the kitchen, I felt a strange sense of relief. This was the beginning of my escape, the first step towards reclaiming my life. And I wasn't going to let anyone, not even Ryan or Gloria, stand in my way. Gloria, there's something I need to tell you, I said, my voice steady. I'm leaving. Her eyes widened in shock. What do you mean, you're leaving? I'm going to stay with my mother, I explained. I need to prove my independence to receive the inheritance. Gloria's face twisted in anger. You selfish little. I held up a hand, cutting her off. This is for the best, Gloria. For all of us. As I turned to leave, I felt a sense of empowerment. This was my chance to break free, to start anew. And I was ready to take it. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in a long while, I felt a glimmer of hope. I was taking control of my destiny, and nothing was going to stop me. The funeral parlor was hushed, the air thick with the scent of lilies and grief. I stood by my father's casket, feeling a profound emptiness. The weight of his absence was almost unbearable. Beside me, my mother, Lisa, clutched my hand, her eyes red and swollen from crying. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart," she whispered, squeezing my hand. "He loved you so much." I nodded, unable to speak. The pain of losing him was compounded by the absence of support from Ryan and his family. They had refused to come, citing important business matters that couldn't be postponed. Their callousness was like salt in an open wound. As the service ended, I found myself surrounded by well-wishers, their words of condolence blurring together. My mind was elsewhere, consumed by thoughts of the inheritance and the escape it promised. "Bella, I need to talk to you," Lisa said gently, pulling me aside. "There's something else you need to know about your father's will." I looked at her, my heart pounding. "What is it, Mom?" She took a deep breath. "Your father left a letter for you. The lawyer gave it to me this morning. He wanted you to read it after the funeral." She handed me a sealed envelope, my name written in my father's familiar handwriting. With trembling hands, I opened it and began to read. "My dearest Bella, if you're reading this, it means I'm no longer with you. I want you to know how proud I am of the woman you've become. I know your life has been difficult, and I regret not being able to help you more. The inheritance I've left you is not just money. It's a lifeline. Use it to free yourself from the chains that bind you. Live the life you deserve, filled with love and happiness. Remember, you are stronger than you think. Don't let anyone dim your light. With all my love, Dad." Tears streamed down my face as I read his words. He had always believed in me, even when I doubted myself. His letter was a beacon of hope, a reminder that I had the power to change my life. "Mom, I need to leave Ryan," I said, my voice choked with emotion. "I can't stay in that house any longer." Lisa nodded, her eyes filled with understanding. "I know, sweetheart. And you don't have to. You can come home with me." I hugged her tightly, feeling a surge of gratitude and determination. "Thank you, Mom. I'm going to do it. I'm going to leave." As we left the funeral parlor, I felt a sense of resolve I hadn't felt in years. I was ready to take control of my life, to break free from the toxic environment that had held me captive for so long. Back at my mother's house, we sat down to discuss the logistics of my move. "We need to be careful, Bella," Lisa said. "Ryan and his family won't take this lightly." "I know," I replied, "but I can't live in fear anymore. I need to do this for myself." Over the next few days, we made plans. I would discreetly pack my belongings and move them to my mother's house. The lawyer agreed to expedite the necessary paperwork to ensure I received the inheritance as soon as possible. One evening, as I was packing, Ryan walked into the bedroom. His eyes narrowed as he saw the suitcase on the bed. "What's this, Bella?" I took a deep breath, meeting his gaze. "I'm leaving, Ryan. I can't stay here any longer." His face twisted in anger. "You think you can just walk away? After everything I've done for you?" "This isn't about you, Ryan. It's about me. I need to be free," I said, my voice steady. He scoffed. "You'll come crawling back. You can't survive without me." I shook my head. "You're wrong, Ryan. I'm stronger than you think." With that, I zipped up my suitcase and walked out of the room, leaving him standing there, seething. As I drove to my mother's house, I felt a sense of liberation. This was the beginning of a new chapter, one where I would no longer be a prisoner of my circumstances. At my mother's house, we celebrated my newfound freedom with a quiet dinner. "I'm so proud of you, Bella," Lisa said, raising her glass. "To new beginnings." "To new beginnings," I echoed, feeling a sense of hope and possibility. But as I lay in bed that night, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of a long and difficult journey. Ryan and his family wouldn't let me go without a fight, and I needed to be prepared for whatever came next. The road ahead was uncertain, but I was ready to face it head-on. With my father's words of encouragement in my heart and my mother's unwavering support, I knew I could overcome any obstacle. This was my time to rise, to reclaim my life, and to build a future filled with love and happiness. The days following my move to my mother's house were a whirlwind of emotions and logistics. I was determined to start fresh, But the looming presence of Ryan and his family cast a long shadow over my newfound freedom. One morning, as I was sipping coffee in the kitchen, my phone rang. It was the lawyer handling my father's estate. "Bella, there's an urgent matter we need to discuss," he said, his tone grave. "What is it?" I asked, my heart sinking. "There's been a challenge to the will," he explained. "Ryan's family has filed a claim, arguing that you're not entitled to the inheritance, as you were not living independently at the time of your father's death." I felt a surge of anger. "They can't do that. My father's will was clear." "I understand your frustration, Bella," the lawyer replied, "but they're arguing that your move was too late, and they're pushing for a court hearing to contest the will." I clenched my fists, trying to steady my breathing. "What do we do now?" "We'll need to prepare for the hearing and gather evidence to support your case," he said. "It's crucial that you remain calm and focused." "Thank you," I said, my voice shaking. "I'll do whatever it takes." As I hung up, my mother entered the kitchen, concern etched on her face. "What's wrong, Bella?" I explained the situation, my anger and frustration boiling over. "They're trying to take everything from me, Mom." Lisa's eyes hardened. "We won't let them. We'll fight this together." Over the next few days, we worked tirelessly with the lawyer, gathering evidence and preparing our case. The stress was overwhelming, but my mother's unwavering support kept me going. One evening, as we were reviewing documents, there was a knock at the door. I opened it to find Ryan standing on the porch, his expression unreadable. "What do you want, Ryan?" I asked, my voice cold. "We need to talk," he said, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. I led him to the living room, my mother close behind. "What is it?" He glanced at Lisa, then back at me. "Bella, this whole situation is getting out of hand. My family is just trying to protect what's rightfully ours." I felt a surge of anger. "Rightfully yours? This is my father's inheritance, Ryan. It has nothing to do with your family." He sighed, rubbing his temples. "Can't we come to some sort of agreement? Maybe split the money?" I shook my head, my resolve hardening. "No, Ryan. I'm not giving in to your family's demands." He looked at me, his eyes filled with a mix of frustration and something else, desperation. "Bella, if we go to court, it's going to get ugly. Do you really want that?" I met his gaze, my heart pounding. "I'm not afraid of a fight, Ryan. I'm done letting you and your family control my life." He stood there for a moment, then turned and walked out, slamming the door behind him. I sank into the couch, my hands trembling. "Are you okay, sweetheart?" Lisa asked, sitting beside me. I nodded, taking a deep breath. "I'm fine, Mom. I just need to stay strong." The following week, the court hearing loomed closer. The tension was unbearable, but I refused to back down. This was my chance to reclaim my life and honor my father's wishes. On the day of the hearing, we arrived at the courthouse early. The atmosphere was charged with anticipation and anxiety. As we entered the courtroom, I saw Ryan and his family seated on the opposite side, their expressions cold and determined. The proceedings were intense, with both sides presenting their arguments. Ryan's lawyer painted a picture of me as a dependent, unable to live independently. Our lawyer countered with evidence of my move and my father's clear intentions in the will. As the judge deliberated, my heart raced. This decision would determine my future, and I couldn't bear the thought of losing everything my father had left me. Finally, the judge spoke. "After careful consideration, I find that the will's stipulations were clear. Bella Stone is entitled to the inheritance as per her father's wishes." Relief washed over me, and I felt tears streaming down my face. I had won. I had fought for my future and prevailed. As we left the courtroom, Ryan approached me, his expression unreadable. "Congratulations, Bella," he said, his voice hollow. "Thank you, Ryan," I replied, my voice steady. "I hope you understand now that I won't be controlled by you or your family anymore." He nodded, a flicker of something, perhaps regret, crossing his face. "I see that now." With that, he turned and walked away, leaving me standing there with my mother. She hugged me tightly, her eyes filled with pride. "You did it, Bella. You fought for your future." I smiled through my tears. I couldn't have done it without you, Mom. As we headed home, I felt a sense of peace and empowerment. This was a new beginning, a chance to build a life on my own terms. And I was ready to embrace it with open arms. The days following the court victory were a mix of relief and anxiety. I had won the inheritance, but the battle with Ryan and his family was far from over. I could feel their resentment simmering, a storm brewing on the horizon. One afternoon, as I was sorting through some of my father's old belongings, my phone rang. It was Ryan. I hesitated before answering, bracing myself for whatever he had to say. "Bella, we need to talk," he said, his voice surprisingly calm. "What is it, Ryan?" I asked, wary. "Can we meet? There's something important I need to discuss with you," he said. I sighed, knowing this conversation was inevitable. "Fine. Where?" "At the coffee shop on Main Street. In an hour," he replied before hanging up. I told my mother about the meeting, and she gave me a reassuring hug. "Be strong, Bella. Don't let him manipulate you." "I won't, Mom," I promised, though my stomach churned with nerves. At the coffee shop, I found Ryan sitting at a corner table, his expression unreadable. I took a deep breath and walked over, sitting down across from him. "What do you want, Ryan?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. He looked at me, his eyes dark with frustration. "Bella, this whole situation has gotten out of hand. My mother is furious, and she's not going to let this go." I clenched my fists under the table. "Your mother needs to understand that this inheritance is mine. It's what my father wanted." He leaned forward, his voice low and urgent. "You don't understand. She's already talking to another lawyer, trying to find a way to overturn the court's decision. She's not going to stop until she gets what she wants." I felt a surge of anger. "And what about you, Ryan? What do you want?" He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I want this to end, Bella. I don't want to keep fighting. Can't we come to some sort of agreement?" I shook my head, my resolve hardening. "No, Ryan. I'm not giving in. This is my chance to start over, to build a life without your family's control." He sat back, a defeated look in his eyes. "I see. Well, I hope you're prepared for what's coming. My mother won't make this easy for you. I'm ready for whatever she throws at me," I said, standing up. "Goodbye, Ryan." As I walked out of the coffee shop, I felt a mix of fear and determination. Gloria's relentless pursuit of the inheritance was a looming threat, but I couldn't let her intimidate me. This was my fight, and I was ready to face it head-on. Back at my mother's house, I shared the conversation with Lisa. She listened, her expression growing more concerned. "We need to be prepared, Bella. Gloria is a formidable opponent." "I know, Mom," I said, my voice steady. "But I won't back down. This is my life, and I'm going to fight for it." Over the next few days, we consulted with our lawyer, gathering more evidence to fortify our case. The tension was palpable, but I refused to let fear dictate my actions. One evening, as we were reviewing documents, there was a loud knock at the door. My heart raced as I opened it to find Gloria standing there, her face twisted with anger. "Bella, we need to talk," she said, pushing past me into the house. My mother stood up, her eyes blazing. "You have no right to barge in here, Gloria." Gloria ignored her, turning to me. "You think you've won, but this isn't over. I'll fight you with everything I have. That money belongs to my family." I met her gaze, my voice calm but firm. "This inheritance is mine, Gloria. My father wanted me to have it. You can fight all you want, but I won't back down." She sneered, her eyes filled with contempt. "We'll see about that." As she stormed out, I felt a surge of fear and anger. This was a battle for my future, and I couldn't afford to lose. My mother placed a hand on my shoulder, her voice gentle but determined. "We'll get through this, Bella. Together." I nodded, feeling a renewed sense of resolve. "Yes, we will." The next morning, I received a call from our lawyer. "Bella, I have some important information," he said. "Gloria's new lawyer has found a loophole in the will. They're planning to use it to challenge the inheritance again." My heart sank. What kind of loophole? It's complicated, but essentially they're arguing that your father wasn't of sound mind when he wrote the will, he explained. I felt a surge of anger. That's ridiculous. My father was perfectly lucid. I know, Bella, but we'll need to gather evidence to prove it, he said. As I hung up, I felt a mix of fear and determination. This was a new challenge, but I couldn't let it defeat me. I had to fight for my father's legacy, for my future. With my mother by my side, I was ready to face whatever came next. This was my battle, and I was determined to win. The day Ryan handed me the divorce papers was a whirlwind of emotions. I stared at the signed documents, my hands trembling. This was it, the final push that would sever the last ties binding me to him and his toxic family. Sign them, Bella, Ryan said, his voice cold and detached. Or give the money to my mother. Your choice. I looked up at him, my heart pounding. You think you can bully me into giving up my inheritance? You're wrong, Ryan. I'm not afraid of you anymore. He scoffed, crossing his arms. You should be. You have no idea what you're up against. I took a deep breath, my resolve hardening. I'll sign the papers. But know this, I'm not backing down. I will fight for what's mine. Ryan's eyes narrowed, but he said nothing as I grabbed a pen and signed the divorce papers. The moment the ink dried, I felt a strange mix of fear and liberation. This was the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. I packed my bags and headed to my mother's house, my mind racing with thoughts of the impending battle. Gloria's challenge to the will was a looming threat, but I couldn't let it deter me. I had to stay strong for my father's memory and for my future. At my mother's house, Lisa greeted me with a warm hug. You did the right thing, Bella. I'm so proud of you. Thanks, Mom, I said, my voice choked with emotion. But this fight is far from over. We'll get through this together, she reassured me. You're not alone. Over the next few days, we worked tirelessly with our lawyer, gathering evidence to prove my father's sound mind when he wrote the will. The stress was overwhelming, but my mother's unwavering support kept me going. One evening, as we were reviewing documents, there was a loud knock at the door. My heart raced as I opened it to find Gloria standing there, her face twisted with fury. Bella, you think you can just walk away and take what's mine? She spat, pushing past me into the house. My mother stood up, her eyes blazing. You have no right to be here, Gloria. Leave now. Gloria ignored her, turning to me. You think you can win this? I'll fight you with everything I have. That money belongs to my family. I met her gaze, my voice calm but firm. This inheritance is mine, Gloria. My father wanted me to have it. You can fight all you want, but I won't back down. She sneered, her eyes filled with contempt. We'll see about that. As she stormed out, I felt a surge of fear and anger. This was a battle for my future, and I couldn't afford to lose. The next morning, I received a call from our lawyer. Bella, we have a problem, he said, his voice tense. Gloria's lawyer has found a loophole in the will. They're arguing that your father wasn't of sound mind when he wrote it. My heart sank. That's ridiculous. My father was perfectly lucid. I know, Bella, but we'll need to gather more evidence to prove it, he said. As I hung up, I felt a mix of fear and determination. This was a new challenge, but I couldn't let it defeat me. I had to fight for my father's legacy, for my future. With my mother by my side, we worked tirelessly to gather evidence. We contacted my father's friends, colleagues, and doctors, all of whom attested to his sound mind and clear intentions. The stress was overwhelming, but I refused to give up. One evening, as we were reviewing the final pieces of evidence, there was another knock at the door. I opened it to find Ryan standing there, his expression unreadable. What do you want, Ryan? I asked, my voice cold. We need to talk, he said, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. I led him to the living room, my mother close behind. What is it? He glanced at Lisa, then back at me. Bella, this whole situation is getting out of hand. My mother is relentless, and she's not going to stop until she gets what she wants. I felt a surge of anger. And what about you, Ryan? What do you want? He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I want this to end, Bella. I don't want to keep fighting. Can't we come to some sort of agreement?" I shook my head, my resolve hardening. "No, Ryan. I'm not giving in. This is my chance to start over, to build a life without your family's control." He sat back, a defeated look in his eyes. "I see. Well, I hope you're prepared for what's coming. My mother won't make this easy for you. I'm ready for whatever she throws at me," I said, standing up. "Goodbye, Ryan." As he left, I felt a mix of fear and determination. This was the most significant crisis yet, but I couldn't let it break me. Everything was at stake: my father's legacy, my future, and my freedom. With my mother by my side, I was ready to face whatever came next. This was my battle, and I was determined to win. The days following Ryan's departure were a blur of preparation and anxiety. Gloria's challenge to the will had escalated, and the court date was set. My mother and I worked tirelessly with our lawyer, gathering every piece of evidence we could find to prove my father's sound mind. The pressure was immense, but I couldn't afford to falter now. One morning, as we were finalizing our documents, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "Meet me at the park by the lake at 2 p.m. I have information that could help you." A friend. My heart raced. This could be a trap, but it could also be the break we needed. I showed the message to my mother, her brow furrowing in concern. "Bella, this could be dangerous. Are you sure about this?" "I have to take the risk, Mom. We need all the help we can get," I replied, determination in my voice. At 2 p.m., I arrived at the park, my nerves on edge. I scanned the area, looking for any sign of the mysterious friend. After a few minutes, a man in his late 50s approached me. He looked familiar, but I couldn't place him. "Bella Stone?" he asked, his voice low. "Yes, that's me." "Who are you?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "My name is Tom. I was your father's attorney for many years. I have some information that could help you," he said, handing me a thick envelope. I took the envelope, my hands trembling. "Why are you helping me? Your father was a good man. He trusted me with his affairs, and I believe he would want you to have this," Tom replied. "Inside, you'll find letters and documents that prove your father's state of mind when he wrote the will. Use them wisely." "Thank you," I said, my voice choked with emotion. "This means so much to me." Tom nodded, a small smile on his lips. "Good luck, Bella. Your father would be proud of you." As I walked back to my car, the weight of the envelope in my hands felt like a lifeline. This was the break we needed. I couldn't wait to show my mother and our lawyer. Back at the house, I handed the envelope to our lawyer, who immediately began reviewing the contents. His eyes widened as he read through the documents. "This is incredible, Bella. These letters are concrete proof of your father's sound mind. This could turn the tide in our favor." Relief washed over me, but I knew the battle was far from over. We still had to face Gloria in court, and she wouldn't go down without a fight. The day of the court hearing arrived, and the tension was palpable. As we entered the courtroom, I saw Gloria and Ryan seated on the opposite side, their expressions cold and determined. My mother squeezed my hand, offering a reassuring smile. Our lawyer presented the new evidence, laying out a compelling case that proved my father's clear intentions and sound mind. Gloria's lawyer tried to counter, but their arguments seemed weak in comparison. As the judge reviewed the evidence, my heart pounded in my chest. This decision would determine my future, and I couldn't bear the thought of losing everything my father had left me. Finally, the judge spoke. "After careful consideration, I find that the evidence presented by Bella Stone is sufficient to prove her father's sound mind at the time of writing the will. Therefore, I rule in favor of Bella Stone." Relief and joy surged through me as I hugged my mother, tears streaming down my face. We had won. We had fought for my father's legacy and prevailed. As we left the courtroom, Gloria approached me, her face twisted with anger. "This isn't over, Bella. I'll find another way to make you pay." I met her gaze, my voice steady. "Do whatever you want, Gloria. But know this, I won't back down. I will fight for my future and my father's memory." With that, I turned and walked away, my mother by my side. This battle was over, but I knew there would be more challenges ahead. Yet, for the first time in a long while, I felt a sense of hope and empowerment. Back at my mother's house, we celebrated our victory with a quiet dinner. "I'm so proud of you, Bella," Lisa said, raising her glass. "To new beginnings." "To new beginnings," I echoed, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. As I lay in bed that night, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of a long and difficult journey. But I was ready to face it head-on. With my father's words of encouragement in my heart and my mother's unwavering support, I knew I could overcome any obstacle. This was my time to rise, to reclaim my life, and to build a future filled with love and happiness. And I was ready to embrace it with open arms. The final court ruling in my favor felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. But I knew this wasn't the end of my journey. With the inheritance secured, it was time to make the most significant decision of my life: to leave Ryan and his toxic family behind for good. The next morning, I sat in the kitchen with my mother, the sunlight streaming through the windows, casting a warm glow on the table. "Mom, I've been thinking," I began, my voice steady. "It's time for us to find a new home, a place where we can start fresh." Lisa smiled, her eyes filled with pride and love. "I think that's a wonderful idea, Bella. You've been through so much, and you deserve a new beginning." With the help of a real estate agent, we found a beautiful house in a quaint town not too far from where we were. It was perfect, spacious, filled with light, and surrounded by lush gardens. It felt like a sanctuary, a place where we could heal and build a new life. As we moved into our new home, I felt a sense of peace and hope that I hadn't felt in years. The days were filled with unpacking, decorating, and planning for the future. My mother and I spent evenings on the porch, watching the sunset and dreaming about the possibilities that lay ahead. One afternoon, as I was arranging books on a shelf, my phone rang. It was Ryan. I hesitated for a moment before answering, bracing myself for whatever he had to say. "Bella, I heard you moved," he said, his voice surprisingly soft. "Yes, Ryan. I needed a fresh start," I replied, keeping my tone neutral. "I understand," he said, sighing. "I just wanted to say, I'm sorry for everything. I know I hurt you and I regret it." His words took me by surprise. I had never expected an apology from him. "Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate that," I said, my voice calm. "I hope you find happiness, Bella. You deserve it," he said before hanging up. As I put the phone down, I felt a sense of closure. Ryan's apology, though unexpected, was a small step towards healing. It was time to let go of the past and focus on the future. In the following weeks, I threw myself into my work and hobbies, rediscovering passions I had long forgotten. I began painting again, filling the house with vibrant colors and expressions of my newfound freedom. My mother and I started a small garden, planting flowers and vegetables, watching them grow and flourish. One evening, as we sat on the porch sipping tea, my mother turned to me, her eyes shining with pride. "Bella, you've come so far. I'm so proud of the woman you've become." Tears filled my eyes as I hugged her. "Thank you, Mom. I couldn't have done it without you." As the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, I felt a sense of fulfillment and joy that I had never known before. I was finally living life on my own terms, free from the shadows of my past. One day, as I was tending to the garden, I received a letter in the mail. It was from Gloria. My heart raced as I opened it, unsure of what to expect. "Bella, I wanted to let you know that I've decided to drop any further legal actions. I realize now that my pursuit was driven by anger and pride. I hope you can find it in your heart to forgive me. Gloria." I stared at the letter, a mix of emotions swirling within me. Forgiveness had never been easy, but this felt like a final release from the chains of my past. As I stood there in the garden, surrounded by the beauty of our new home, I felt a profound sense of peace. This was my life, my future, and I was finally free to live it as I chose. With my mother by my side, I knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, we would face them together. This was our new beginning, a testament to our resilience and strength. As the sun set, casting a golden glow over the garden, I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the past lift away. This was my time to rise, to embrace the future with open arms, and to live a life filled with love, happiness, and endless possibilities. And so, with a heart full of hope and a spirit unbroken, I stepped into the next chapter of my life, ready to face whatever came my way.